Have you ever heard of an army so enormous, so powerful, that instead of sailing across the sea, they just walked over it? Well, today, we're diving into one of the most unbelievable engineering feats in all of ancient history, the story of Xerxes' impossible bridge.
So that's the big question, isn't it? How on earth did this happen? We're talking about 2,500 years ago. This is a story about incredible ambition, a king's legendary fury, and some absolutely mind-blowing ingenuity. How do you build a highway on water strong enough for an entire invasion?
Okay, so to really get how amazing the solution was, we first have to understand the massive scale of the problem. This was a challenge fit for a king, and a famous one at that.
All right, so let's set the scene. It's 480 BC. The Persian king Xerxes has one thing on his mind: conquering Greece. He's put together this absolutely colossal army, and it seems like nothing can stop his march west. But there was a bit of a problem. A water problem.
Now, the ancient historian Herodotus claimed the army was in the millions, which is probably a bit of an exaggeration. But even modern historians think it was well over 200,000 soldiers. I mean, just think about that. Moving that many people is a logistical nightmare today. Imagine trying to do it back then.
And that big water problem was called the Hellespont. We call it the Dardanelles today. It's this mile-wide strait separating Asia from Europe. And it's not just a calm little river. The currents are incredibly strong, the weather is unpredictable. You couldn't just ferry 200,000 soldiers across. It would take forever. So Xerxes decided, we're not going through it, we're going over it. He needed a bridge.
So you'd think, okay, build a bridge. But the first attempt, well, it did not go well. In fact, it was a total disaster, and it led to one of the most famous tantrums in all of history.
His engineers went out, they built these two bridges, and before the army even got there, a massive storm just blew in and completely tore their work to pieces. As he could imagine, Xerxes was not happy.
In fact, he was so furious, he decided to punish the sea itself. Seriously, he ordered his men to whip the water 300 times and throw a pair of shackles into the strait as if to enslave it. It was this incredible act of a king trying to dominate nature itself.
And what about the engineers who built that first bridge? Well, their punishment was a little more final. They were all beheaded, which, sent a pretty clear message to the next group of engineers: do not fail.
So, with their own lives literally on the line, the new team of engineers had to get this right, and what they came up with, well, it was nothing short of an engineering miracle.
They didn't just wing it this time. They had a clear, systematic plan. First, create a stable foundation. Second, anchor that foundation against those brutal currents. Third, build a road on top of it all. And finally, make sure that road was solid enough for an entire army and thousands of terrified animals.
So what was this foundation? Ships. Hundreds and hundreds of warships, all lashed together side by side to act like floating pontoons. But here's the genius part. The water was way too deep to just drop anchors. So instead, they stretched massive cables from one shore to the other, holding the entire line of ships in tension against the current. It was a flexible, yet incredibly strong design.
And when I say massive cables, I mean it. These things, made from flax and papyrus, weighed over 56 kilograms. That's about 125 pounds for every single meter. Just try to wrap your head around ropes that thick and heavy. These things were the steel girders of their day, the absolute lifelines for this whole project.
So once this floating foundation of ships was locked in place, they laid down a road using wooden logs. But they didn't stop there, and this is so smart. They covered the logs with brush and then packed on a thick layer of earth. Why? To make it look and feel like a solid road. This was crucial for keeping thousands of horses and pack animals from freaking out at the sight of the water right beneath their hooves.
Now you might be thinking this is just some bizarre one-off thing from ancient history. But believe it or not, the basic technology that Xerxes' engineers used is still very much with us today, just on a slightly different scale.
The official name for this is a pontoon bridge. And the concept is beautifully simple. You just use something that floats to hold up a road. It's an idea that's been working for over 2,500 years.
And the modern champion of this ancient tech? You can find it in Seattle. It's the SR 520 bridge. And guess what? It was built for a very similar reason. It crosses a very deep lake where the bottom is too soft for normal bridge pillars. Sound familiar? So let's put them side by side for a second. It's actually fascinating.
Xerxes used almost 700 warships, right? Wooden hulls to float. The SR-520 bridge uses 77 giant hollow concrete pontoons. I know, it sounds nuts that concrete can float, but since they're hollow, they work just like the ships did. The anchoring is done with massive steel cables instead of flax ropes, but the fundamental idea, it is exactly the same. The materials have just changed from timber and rope to concrete and steel.
So what does all this mean? What's the big takeaway from this incredible story from so long ago?
Well, first off, the bridge actually worked. It held. For 7 solid days and nights, that massive Persian army just walked from Asia to Europe. It was the key that unlocked their entire invasion of Greece. They had literally done the impossible.
In the end, this bridge is so much more than just a cool engineering project. It's this powerful symbol of human will. It shows that when we're backed into a corner, facing a problem that seems completely unbeatable, we can come up with some truly brilliant, game-changing solutions.
And that kind of leaves you wondering, doesn't it? We went from floating warships to floating concrete freeways. We keep turning things that were once impossible into reality. So what's next? What's the big, modern, impossible challenge that's just out there waiting for its own brilliant, audacious engineering solution?